My husband said he was working late, but his business dinner was at our neighbor's house. What I saw through the window made me drop the wine glass. Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I never thought I'd be the woman writing this kind of story. I always believed I was different, that my marriage was different, that my husband was different. I trusted him with everything I had, with every fiber of my being. Trust was the foundation we built our life on, or so I thought. Let me start from the beginning, because every ending has a beginning, and mine started 12 years ago on a rainy Tuesday in October. I met David at a coffee shop near my office. It sounds cliché, I know, but sometimes clichés happen because they're real. I was fumbling with my laptop, an iced latte, and an umbrella that refused to collapse properly. He was standing behind me in line, and when my laptop bag slipped off my shoulder and sent my papers flying across the floor, he didn't hesitate. He got down on his hands and knees in his expensive suit and helped me gather every single page, even though they were getting wet from my dripping umbrella. "Rough morning?" he asked with a smile that made me forget I was mortified. "You could say that," I laughed, trying to smooth down my frizzy hair. "Thank you so much." "I'm David," he said, extending his hand once we were both standing again. "Emma," I replied, shaking it. He insisted on buying my coffee to make up for my traumatic experience, as he jokingly called it. We ended up talking for 45 minutes. I was late to work that day, but I didn't care. There was something about him, his easy laugh, the way he listened like every word I said mattered, the gentle teasing that made me feel comfortable rather than self-conscious. We were married within 2 years. Our wedding was small and intimate, just family and close friends in a garden venue that we'd fallen in love with. I remember standing there in my dress, looking into David's eyes as he said his vows, and thinking that this was it. This was the person I would grow old with. This was the person who would hold my hand through everything life threw at us. And for years, it seemed like I was right. We bought a house in a quiet suburban neighborhood with tree-lined streets and friendly neighbors. It was a 2-story colonial with blue shutters that I fell in love with the moment I saw it. David worked in finance, climbing the corporate ladder steadily, while I worked as a marketing coordinator for a local firm. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We had date nights every Friday, lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and crossword puzzles, and inside jokes that made us laugh until our stomachs hurt. We talked about having kids someday, but we were waiting for the right time. David wanted to be more established in his career first, and I was fine with that. We had time, or so I thought. Our neighbors, the Hendersons, moved in about 3 years ago. Tom was a pleasant but quiet man who traveled for work most of the time. His wife, Vanessa, was stunning in that effortless way that made other women feel inadequate without her even trying. Tall, blonde, with perfectly toned arms and a smile that seemed to light up her entire face. She worked from home as a graphic designer and was always friendly, always ready with a wave and a cheerful hello. I liked her well enough. We weren't close friends, but we'd chat over the fence occasionally, exchange pleasantries at neighborhood gatherings. She brought over cookies when we first met, and I brought her a bottle of wine when Tom was away on his frequent business trips, thinking she might appreciate the company. I never suspected anything. Why would I? The changes started gradually, so subtly that I didn't notice them at first. David began staying late at work more frequently. Once a week became twice a week, then 3 times. He'd text me around 6 or 7, saying he was stuck in a meeting or had a business dinner with clients he needed to schmooze. "Don't wait up, babe. These things run late," his messages would say. And I didn't mind. I was proud of him, actually. Proud that he was working so hard, that he was so dedicated to providing for us and advancing his career. I'd heat up dinner when he got home, no matter how late it was, and he'd tell me about his day, about the difficult clients, or the challenging projects. I'd massage his shoulders and listen, happy to be his soft place to land after a hard day. I developed a routine on those late nights. I'd pour myself a glass of wine, usually around 8, and settle into the couch with a book or a show I'd been meaning to catch up on. Sometimes I'd bake cookies, brownies, a pie. Baking relaxed me, and I liked having something sweet to offer David when he came home, tired and stressed. I'd call him around 9 to check in, just a quick, "How's it going? When do you think you'll be home?" He always answered, always had a reasonable explanation for the delay. His voice would sound tired, and I could hear the ambient noise of a restaurant or office in the background. Sometimes voices, sometimes music. It all seemed normal. Looking back now, I realize how easy it is to believe what you want to believe. The first tiny crack in my trust appeared about 6 months ago. David came home from one of his late nights, and when I hugged him, I smelled perfume. Not my perfume. Something floral and expensive, definitely not the citrus scent I always wore. "You smell nice," I said, trying to sound casual even though my stomach had tightened. He pulled back and sniffed his shirt, frowning. "Oh, that. Yeah, Rebecca was at the dinner. You know how she is, she hugs everyone. I think half the bottle of her perfume transferred onto me." Rebecca was his colleague, a woman in her 50s with a husband and 3 grown children. It made sense. I laughed and let it go. But then it happened again. And again. Different perfumes, different explanations. Someone bumped into me at the restaurant. The hostess got too close when she was seating us. "I think it's from the cab. The previous passenger must have been wearing a lot of perfume." Each explanation was plausible on its own. Together, they should have formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. But I did ignore it. Because I trusted him. Because I loved him. Because the alternative was too painful to consider. There were other things too, little things that my brain registered but filed away as unimportant. The way he'd started showering as soon as he got home from his late nights, even before eating the dinner I'd kept warm for him. The way his phone was suddenly always face down on the table. The way he'd become irritable when I asked too many questions about his evenings. "Emma, I'm exhausted," he'd say, running his hand through his hair. "I just spent 3 hours talking to boring clients about market trends. Do we really need to dissect my evening?" I'd apologize, feeling guilty for being needy, for not being understanding enough of his stress. Then there were the little moments with Vanessa that started to feel off. The way she'd always be outside watering her garden or checking her mailbox right when David got home from work. The way her face would light up when she saw him, and she'd wave enthusiastically, walking over to chat with him by his car. The way their conversations seemed to last just a bit too long, with her touching his arm when she laughed at something he said. "Vanessa was asking about you today," David would mention casually at dinner. "She wanted to know if you'd tried that new yoga studio downtown." "That's nice of her," I'd reply, not thinking much of it. But then I'd notice her at our neighborhood gatherings, how she'd position herself near David, how she'd find excuses to talk to him. And I'd notice how he seemed. Different around her. More animated, more engaged. He'd laugh louder at her jokes, lean in closer when she spoke. One evening, at a neighborhood barbecue, I watched them from across the yard. They were standing by the grill, Vanessa in a sundress that showed off her tan shoulders, David in the casual button-down I'd bought him for Father's Day. Even though we didn't have kids yet, I just liked the idea of him being a father someday. They weren't doing anything inappropriate. They were just talking. But there was something about their body language, the way they mirrored each other, the way she looked up at him through her lashes, the way he smiled down at her. My friend Rachel appeared at my elbow with a margarita. "They sure seem friendly," she said, her tone carefully neutral. "They're just neighbors," I replied, taking a long sip of my drink. Rachel didn't say anything else, but I felt her eyes on me, full of concern. That night, I lay in bed next to David, listening to him breathe in the darkness, and for the first time, I let myself think the unthinkable. What if he's cheating on me? The thought was like ice water in my veins. I immediately pushed it away. No, not David, not my David. He loved me. We had a good marriage. He was just stressed with work, and I was being paranoid and insecure. But once the thought was there, I couldn't completely banish it. It lurked in the back of my mind, whispering doubts during those long evenings when he was at business dinners, when I was alone in our house with just my wine and my worry. I started paying more attention. I noticed that his business dinners seemed to happen more frequently on nights when Tom Henderson was out of town. I noticed that Vanessa's car would be in her driveway on those nights, her lights on, sometimes with a flickering glow that suggested candles. But I couldn't be sure. Maybe I was seeing patterns that weren't there. Maybe I was turning into one of those suspicious, paranoid wives I'd always pitied. I tried to bring it up once, gently, carefully. "You've been working so late lately," I said one morning over coffee. "Is everything okay at work?" "Everything's fine," he said, not looking up from his phone. "Just busy season." "It's been busy season for 6 months," I pointed out, trying to keep my voice light. He finally looked at me, and there was irritation in his eyes. "Emma, I'm doing this for us, for our future. Do you think I enjoy spending my evenings in stuffy restaurants talking about portfolios?" "No, of course not. I just miss you, that's all." His expression softened. He reached across the table and took my hand. "I miss you too, babe. This project will be done soon, and then things will go back to normal, I promise." I wanted to believe him so badly, so I did. 3 weeks ago, David told me he had an important business dinner on Thursday night. "Big potential client," he said. "This could mean a promotion if I land them." "That's great," I said, genuinely excited for him. "Where are you going?" "That new steakhouse downtown, Morton's, I think." Thursday came, and David left for work in a crisp suit and the cologne I'd bought him for Christmas. He kissed me goodbye, told me he loved me, told me not to wait up. I spent the day working from home, then went to the grocery store in the afternoon. As I was pulling into our driveway with bags of groceries, I saw David's car pass by the end of our street. I thought it was odd. He should have been at work, but before I could process it, the car was gone. Maybe it wasn't his car. There were plenty of silver Audis in the world. That evening, I made myself dinner, poured a generous glass of red wine, and settled in with the book I'd been reading. Around 8:30, my phone buzzed with a text from David. "Meeting running long. These guys love to talk. Probably another hour or two," I texted back. "No problem. Good luck. Love you." "Love you too," he replied. I poured another glass of wine and continued reading, but I couldn't focus. Something felt off, though I couldn't put my finger on what. Just a nagging feeling in my gut, like a splinter I couldn't quite see. At 9:30, I got up to refill my glass again and happened to glance out the front window. That's when I saw it. David's car, parked in front of Vanessa Henderson's house. My heart stopped. I set my wine glass down on the windowsill with a shaking hand and stared, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe he was just stopping by to borrow something. Maybe there was a neighborhood association thing I'd forgotten about. Maybe Tom had come home early and David was welcoming him back. But Tom's car wasn't there. Just David's silver Audi gleaming under the streetlight and Vanessa's white SUV in her driveway. I stood there frozen, my mind racing through possibilities, explanations, anything that would make this make sense. And then, before I could stop myself, before I could talk myself out of it, I walked out my front door. The evening air was cool, and I was only in yoga pants and a t-shirt, but I didn't feel the cold. I walked across my lawn, then across the street, my feet moving without conscious thought. The wine I'd drunk made everything feel slightly surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body. Vanessa's house was lit up warmly from inside. I could see through the sheer curtains covering her front windows. I walked up her driveway, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. And then I looked through the window. The wine glass slipped from my hand. I heard it shatter on the concrete driveway, heard the splash of red wine, and the tinkle of broken glass. But it sounded far away, like it was happening to someone else. Because inside Vanessa's dining room, lit by what must have been a dozen candles, I saw my husband. David. My David, who was supposed to be at a business dinner downtown. He was sitting at her dining table, but he wasn't sitting across from her like neighbors might sit. He was sitting right next to her, their chairs pulled close together. His hand was on her thigh. Her hand was on his chest. And they were kissing not a friendly peck, not an accidental brush of lips, but a deep, passionate kiss that told me everything I needed to know. The table was set beautifully with wine glasses and plates that still had food on them. There were roses in a vase. This wasn't a spontaneous moment. This was planned. This was routine. This was a date. My mind couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. The world tilted sideways. I felt like I was falling, even though I was standing still. Every happy memory, every moment of trust, every time I'd believed his excuses, all of it came crashing down around me, glass shattering just like the wine glass at my feet. How long had this been going on? How many business dinners had actually been here? With her, in her candlelit dining room? How many times had he kissed me goodnight with the taste of her still on his lips? How many times had I been the fool, the naive wife who believed every word? I don't know how long I stood there. It might have been seconds or minutes. Time had become meaningless, but then the porch light next to me flicked on, and I was suddenly bathed in harsh brightness. The door opened. It was David. He'd seen me. Through the window, he'd seen me standing there, and now here he was, his face pale, his eyes wide with panic. Behind him, I could see Vanessa standing in her hallway, her hand over her mouth. "Emma," David said, and his voice cracked. "Emma, I can explain." I couldn't speak. My voice was gone, stolen by the betrayal that was choking me. I just stared at him, this man I'd loved for 12 years, this stranger who'd been lying to me. "It's not what it looks like," he said, stepping out onto the porch. The most cliched phrase in the cheater's handbook, and here he was, using it on me. Something inside me snapped. "Not what it looks like." I finally found my voice, and it came out as a harsh whisper. "Not what it looks like?" "I saw you, David. I saw you kissing her. I saw the candles, the dinner, the wine. I saw your hand on her leg." He reached for me, but I stumbled backward, nearly slipping on the spilled wine. "Don't touch me." "Emma, please, let me explain." "Explain what? Explain how many times you've lied to me? Explain how many business dinners were actually you sneaking over to our neighbor's house while her husband was out of town?" Vanessa appeared in the doorway behind him, wrapped in a robe now, her lipstick smeared. Looking at her, I felt a rage I didn't know I was capable of. "You," I said, my voice shaking. "You brought me cookies when you moved in. You chatted with me over the fence. You smiled at me at neighborhood parties while you were sleeping with my husband." "I'm sorry," she whispered, but there were no tears in her eyes. Just guilt, just discomfort at being caught. "How long?" I demanded, looking at David. "How long has this been going on?" He ran his hand through his hair, the gesture I'd always found endearing, but now it just made me sick. 6 months, he admitted quietly. 6 months. Half a year. Christmas, New Year's, my birthday, our anniversary. He'd been with me for all of those, smiling, kissing me, telling me he loved me, while carrying on this affair. "Every business dinner?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Not everyone," he said weakly. "Some of them were real." As if that made it better. As if I should be grateful that he only lied to me some of the time instead of all of the time. "I need to go," I said, turning away. I couldn't look at him anymore. Couldn't look at either of them. "Emma, wait. We need to talk about this." I spun back around, and the movement made my head spin. "Talk about it? What is there to talk about, David? You've been having an affair with our neighbor for 6 months. You've been lying to me every single day. You've been kissing me goodnight and telling me you love me while sneaking over here to be with her. What could you possibly say that would make any of this okay? I do love you, he said, and he actually looked like he believed it. I do. This thing with Vanessa, it happened. We didn't mean for it to happen, I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. It just happened? Affairs don't just happen, David. They're a choice. Every time you texted me saying you were working late, that was a choice. Every time you came over here, instead of coming home to me, that was a choice. Every time you looked me in the eye and lied, that was a choice. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But his apologies meant nothing. They were just words, and words were cheap. His actions had spoken louder than any apology ever could. I walked away, leaving him standing there on Vanessa's porch. I walked across the street, through my front door, and up to our bedroom. My hands were shaking as I pulled a suitcase from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay here. Not tonight. Not with him. David followed me into the house. Emma, please don't do this. Can we just talk? Talk, I repeated, shoving more clothes into the suitcase. You want to talk now, after 6 months of lying. After I had to catch you literally with your hand on another woman, you want to talk. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. I stopped packing and looked at him. Really looked at him. He looked so normal, so familiar, standing there in our bedroom in the suit I'd helped him pick out. But he wasn't the man I thought he was. Maybe he never had been. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store, I said quietly. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. An affair is not a mistake, David. It's a betrayal. It's a fundamental breakdown of everything we promised each other. I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust. But we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Can we? I asked. How? How do I ever believe another word you say? How do I ever trust you again? Every time you're late from work, every time you smell like perfume, every time you're on your phone, how do I not wonder? How do I not imagine you with her? He didn't have an answer for that. I zipped up the suitcase and carried it downstairs. David followed, pleading, apologizing, promising things would be different. But I barely heard him. There was a ringing in my ears, a numbness spreading through my body like anesthesia. Emma, I love you, and I want to make this work. I stopped at the front door and turned to face him one last time. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Love isn't just a word, David. It's a verb. It's actions. It's choosing your partner every single day, and you chose her. I'm choosing you now, he said desperately. Only because you got caught. I opened the door. If I hadn't seen you tonight, how much longer would this have gone on? Another 6 months? A year? Would you have eventually left me for her? Or would you have just kept both of us, having your cake and eating it too? I don't know, he whispered. And at least that was honest. I walked out the door, threw my suitcase in my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw David standing in the doorway of our house, the house we'd bought together, the house where we were supposed to grow old together. I saw Vanessa watching from her window across the street, and I saw my entire life imploding. I drove to my sister's house across town. I don't really remember the drive. I was operating on autopilot, my body going through the motions, while my mind was still back at Vanessa's house, replaying what I'd seen over and over again. Rachel answered the door in her pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside without a word. She held me while I cried, great heaving sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside me, from a place I didn't know existed. He cheated, I managed to gasp out between sobs. David, he's been cheating on me, with Vanessa, for 6 months. Oh, honey, Rachel said, rubbing my back. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I saw them, I continued, the words spilling out like poison I needed to purge from my system. I saw them kissing, in her dining room, with candles. He told me he was at a business dinner. He's been telling me that for months. And I believed him. I believed every lie. This isn't your fault, Rachel said firmly. None of this is your fault. But part of me wondered if it was. Had I been too trusting? Too naive? Had I ignored signs I should have seen? Should I have questioned him more, pushed back when his explanations didn't quite add up? That night, I lay in Rachel's guest bed, staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzing constantly with calls and texts from David that I didn't answer. I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out everything that made me who I was and left just an empty shell. I kept thinking about all the moments I'd missed or dismissed. The perfume, the late nights, the way he'd pull away when I tried to be intimate lately, claiming he was too tired, the way he'd been emotionally distant even when he was physically present, the way Vanessa would smile at him across the fence. It was all so obvious now, like a puzzle where you finally see the picture that was there all along. How had I been so blind? Around 3 a.m, I finally read one of David's texts. Please come home. Please let me explain everything. I love you. I'm sorry. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please give me a chance to try to make this right. I typed and deleted several responses before finally sending. There's nothing to explain. I saw everything I needed to see. Don't contact me again. I'll be in touch through a lawyer. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, watching the shadows change on the ceiling, feeling the weight of my broken marriage pressing down on my chest like a physical thing. The next morning, Rachel made me coffee and toast that I couldn't eat. What do you want to do? She asked gently. I don't know, I admitted. I can't even think straight. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. Do you think you'll divorce him? The word hung in the air between us. Divorce. The end of 12 years together. The death of all the dreams we'd built. I don't know how I could stay, I said quietly. How do you come back from this? How do you rebuild trust that's been so completely shattered? Rachel didn't answer, just held my hand across the table. Over the next few days, I stayed at Rachel's house and tried to process what had happened. David kept trying to contact me, calls, texts, emails. I blocked his number. Then he started showing up at my work. Security had to escort him out when he wouldn't leave. He sent flowers to Rachel's house with notes begging for another chance. I threw them in the trash. My friends rallied around me. They brought wine and ice cream and righteous anger on my behalf. They told me stories of their own betrayals, their own heartbreaks, as if forming a chorus of shared pain would somehow make mine easier to bear. It didn't, but I appreciated the effort. The neighborhood grapevine was working overtime. Apparently, word had spread quickly about what happened. Tom Henderson had been called home from his business trip by a concerned neighbor who'd seen the confrontation. According to Rachel's friend, who lived 2 streets over, Tom and Vanessa were also headed for divorce. There was some small, petty satisfaction in that, knowing that at least both marriages were imploding, rather than just mine. A week after that night, I finally went back to the house. David was at work. I'd checked with his assistant to make sure. I needed to get more of my things, and I needed to do it without seeing him. Walking into our house was surreal. Everything looked the same, the couch where I'd sat reading countless evenings, the kitchen where I'd cooked dinners that he sometimes ate, and sometimes claimed to be too full from his business dinner to touch, the photos on the walls of us smiling, in love, happy. But everything was different now. This wasn't my home anymore. It was just a building full of lies and broken promises. I was packing boxes in the bedroom when I heard the front door open. My heart stopped. David's voice called out, "Emma! Emma, are you here?" I considered not answering, just staying silent until he went away. But I was tired of hiding, tired of running. "I'm upstairs," I called back. He appeared in the bedroom doorway, and I was struck by how terrible he looked. There were dark circles under his eyes. His face was drawn. His hair was messy. Good, I thought viciously. I hope he's suffering even a fraction of what I am. "You came back," he said, and there was desperate hope in his voice. "Just to get my things," I clarified. You should be at work. I took the day off. I've been hoping you'd come back. Emma, please, please, can we talk? Really talk? There's nothing to talk about, David. There's everything to talk about. Our marriage, our life together, our future. I laughed bitterly. We don't have a future. We could, if you just give me a chance. A chance? I interrupted, my voice rising. I gave you 12 years of chances. I gave you my trust, my love, my loyalty, and you threw it all away for an affair with our neighbor. It wasn't supposed to happen, he said, stepping into the room. Vanessa and I, we were just friends at first. She was lonely with Tom always traveling, and I was stressed with work, and we'd talk sometimes. And then one night, Tom was out of town, and her sink was broken, and she asked if I could help fix it. And I went over, and we had some wine, and we were talking, and it just happened. Stop, I said. Stop trying to make this sound like some romantic story. You made choices, David. You chose to go over to her house. You chose to drink wine with her. You chose to kiss her. And then you chose to do it again and again for 6 months. Those weren't accidents. Those were decisions. I know, you're right. I'm not trying to make excuses. I just want you to understand. Understand what? That you fell in love with someone else? That I wasn't enough for you? That our marriage wasn't enough? No, he said desperately. You are enough. You've always been enough. This wasn't about you not being enough. It was about me being weak and selfish and stupid. You're right about that, I said coldly. You were weak and selfish and stupid. And now you're also single. Emma, please. I ended it with Vanessa. As soon as you caught us, I told her it was over. It's over. I choose you. I want you. I want our marriage. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with her, I said, throwing more clothes into a box. You should have thought about our marriage before you put your hand on her thigh, before you kissed her, before you lied to me every single day for 6 months. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you anyway. Please, please give me another chance. We can go to therapy. I'll do anything to make this right. I stopped packing and looked at him. You can't make this right, David. Some things, once they're broken, can't be fixed. You can't unring this bell. You can't unknow what I know. You can't unfeel what I feel. What do you feel? He asked quietly. I thought about it. Betrayed, humiliated, angry, heartbroken. Like the last 12 years of my life were a lie. Like I never really knew you at all. You do know me. The person you fell in love with, the person you married, that's who I am. I just made a terrible mistake. 6 months of mistakes, I corrected. Hundreds of lies. Thousands of moments where you could have told me the truth, where you could have ended it, where you could have chosen me, and you didn't. He sank down onto the bed, his head in his hands. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If I could take it back, I would. But you can't, I said. That's the thing about betrayal. You can apologize, you can regret it, you can wish it never happened, but you can't undo it. It's done. And I have to decide if I can live with what you did. And can you? He asked, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I looked at him, this man I'd loved for so long, this man who'd promised to be faithful to me, to cherish me, to build a life with me. This man who'd broken every one of those promises. I don't think I can, I said quietly. I don't think I can look at you without seeing you with her. I don't think I can sleep next to you without wondering if you're thinking about her. I don't think I can trust you when you say you're working late, or when you come home smelling like perfume, or when you're on your phone. And a marriage without trust isn't a marriage at all. It's just two people living in the same house, pretending. So that's it? He said, his voice breaking. 12 years, and it's just over? You're the one who ended it, I said. The moment you kissed her for the first time. The moment you lied to me about where you were. You ended our marriage, David, not me. I'm just acknowledging that it's dead. He started crying then, really crying, shoulders shaking, gasping for breath. Part of me wanted to comfort him, years of habit urging me to go to him, to hold him, to tell him it would be okay. But I didn't move. His pain wasn't my responsibility anymore. I love you, he sobbed. I still love you. Love isn't enough, I said, zipping up the box. Love without trust, without respect, without honesty, it's not enough to build a life on. I carried the box downstairs, loaded it into my car, and went back for more. David followed me around the house, still pleading, still apologizing, but I tuned him out. I was done listening to his words. His actions had already told me everything I needed to know. When I'd packed everything I wanted, I stood at the front door one last time. I'll have a lawyer contact you about the divorce, I said. Please don't call me, don't text me, don't show up at my work. We can communicate through lawyers. Emma, goodbye, David. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away. And this time, I didn't look back. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm still staying with Rachel. I've hired a lawyer, filed for divorce. David tried to contest it at first, tried to beg for counseling, for a chance to work on our marriage. But I stood firm. Some things can't be fixed, and some betrayals can't be forgiven. The neighborhood is still buzzing with gossip. Vanessa and Tom are also getting divorced. She moved out of their house last week, went to stay with her sister in another state. I heard through the grapevine that Tom was devastated, that he'd had no idea what was going on in his own home while he was traveling for work. I felt bad for him. We were both betrayed by people we trusted, both left to pick up the pieces of our shattered lives. Some people in the neighborhood have taken sides. A few of the wives won't speak to me, as if my husband's affair was somehow contagious, as if acknowledging what happened to me means admitting it could happen to them too. But most people have been kind. They drop off casseroles at Rachel's house, give me sympathetic looks at the grocery store, tell me they always thought David and Vanessa seemed too friendly. I appreciate the support, but it doesn't make the pain any less. Nothing does. I'm in therapy now, trying to process everything that happened, trying to understand how I missed the signs, trying to rebuild my sense of self-worth. My therapist keeps telling me that this wasn't my fault, that I did nothing wrong, that David's choices were his own. Intellectually, I understand that. Emotionally, I still sometimes wonder if I could have prevented this somehow. The anger comes and goes in waves. Some days I'm fine, functioning, going through the motions of my life. Other days I'm consumed with rage at David for betraying me, at Vanessa for pursuing a married man, at myself for being so naive, at the universe for letting this happen. Those are the days when I want to scream, to break things, to make them hurt the way they made me hurt. And then there are the sad days when I mourn everything I've lost. Not just David. I'm actually starting to realize I'm better off without him, but the life I thought I had, the future I thought we'd build together, the children we'd planned to have, the growing old together, the inside jokes, the shared history, all of it gone, revealed to be built on a foundation of lies. I went back to the house one more time last week to get the last of my things. David wasn't there. He'd agreed to stay away while I packed. Walking through those empty rooms felt like touring a museum of my own life. Here was the kitchen where I'd cooked countless meals. Here was the living room where we'd celebrated Christmases and birthdays. Here was the bedroom where we'd made love, where I'd felt safe and cherished and chosen. All of it tainted now. All of it ruined by what he'd done. I found myself standing in front of our wedding photo, hanging in the hallway. We looked so young, so happy, so in love. That Emma, the one in the white dress with stars in her eyes, had no idea what was coming. She thought she'd found her forever. She thought she was safe. I took the photo off the wall, not to keep, but to leave behind. That marriage, those people, they don't exist anymore. In the bedroom, I found the lingerie I'd bought 6 months ago, tags still on, hidden in the back of my drawer. I'd been planning to surprise David with it, to spice things up, worried that maybe our marriage had become too routine. I'd never worn it because he'd been too tired from work every time I tried to initiate intimacy. Now I knew why. He wasn't tired. He was getting his needs met elsewhere. I threw the lingerie in the trash. Let him take the garbage out one last time. As I was leaving, I ran into Mrs. Chen from next door. She's an elderly widow who's lived in the neighborhood for 40 years. She stopped me on the sidewalk, put her weathered hand on my arm. "I'm sorry for what happened to you, dear," she said, her eyes kind behind her thick glasses. "That boy never deserved you." "Thank you," I managed, my throat tight. "My Harold cheated on me once," she said, surprising me. 43 years ago, I found out, and I thought my world was ending." "What did you do?" I asked. "I left him," she said simply. "Packed up my things and went to stay with my sister, just like you're doing. He begged me to come back, promised it would never happen again, swore he'd changed." "Did you go back?" She shook her head. "No, because I realized something important. He didn't cheat because of anything I did or didn't do. He cheated because of who he was, and I deserved better than someone who would betray me like that." She squeezed my arm. "You deserve better, too." Those words stayed with me. I deserve better. It seems so obvious, so simple, but hearing it from someone else, someone who'd been through the same thing, made it feel more real. I do deserve better. I deserve someone who chooses me every day. Someone who doesn't lie to me. Someone who doesn't make me question my own intuition and sanity. Someone who doesn't require detective work and surveillance to trust. The divorce proceedings are moving forward. David has stopped fighting it, finally accepting that I'm not coming back. He sent me a letter last week. My lawyer forwarded it to me. In it, he apologized again, told me he'd made the biggest mistake of his life, told me he'd never forgive himself for losing me. I read it once and then put it in a drawer. His regret isn't my problem anymore. My lawyer told me that David has been telling people that the affair just happened, that it was a mistake, that he still loves me. As if love means anything without loyalty, without honesty, without integrity. As if I should be flattered that he loves me even while he was sleeping with someone else. But I'm learning that some people will never take full responsibility for their actions. They'll minimize. They'll justify. They'll paint themselves as victims of circumstance rather than architects of their own choices. David will probably tell himself and others that the affair was a mistake, an aberration, something that happened to him rather than something he did. That's his story to live with. Mine is different. My story is about survival, about finding strength I didn't know I had, about refusing to accept less than I deserve. It's not the story I wanted to write, not the ending I imagined for my marriage, but it's mine, and I'm learning to own it. I've started thinking about what comes next. I'll get my own place once the divorce is final and the house is sold. Something small, somewhere new, where I can start fresh without memories lurking in every corner. I've been looking at apartments downtown, near my work, in buildings with doormen and security, and neighbors I don't know. I'm thinking about dating again, though that feels terrifying. How do you trust again after this? How do you open your heart when you know how badly it can be broken? My therapist says I'll know when I'm ready, that there's no timeline for healing. Some days I think I'll never be ready. Other days, I feel the tiniest flutter of hope that maybe, someday, I'll find someone who deserves my trust. Rachel keeps telling me that this is all a blessing in disguise, that I'm better off knowing the truth than living in ignorance. I'm not sure I agree yet. Ignorance, it turns out, really was bliss. But she's right that knowing is better than not knowing. At least now I can make choices based on reality rather than illusion. Last night, I was lying in bed at Rachel's house, scrolling through old photos on my phone. There were hundreds of pictures of David and me, vacations, holidays, ordinary moments. In every single one, I looked happy. And I was happy, or at least I thought I was. But that happiness was built on lies. I started deleting them, one by one. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. I need to let go of the woman I was. The woman who trusted blindly and loved completely. She served me well for a long time, but she couldn't protect me from this. I need to become someone new, someone wiser, more cautious, but also stronger and more self-reliant. The final picture I came across was from our anniversary dinner last year, just 2 months before the affair started. We were at our favorite restaurant, holding hands across the table, smiling at the camera. David had told me that night that he was the luckiest man in the world to be married to me. I'd believed him. I hovered my finger over the delete button, then paused. This photo, like all the others, represented a version of my life that I thought was real. Deleting it wouldn't change what happened. It wouldn't erase the betrayal or the lies. But keeping it wouldn't help me move forward either. I deleted it, and then I deleted my entire photo library of us together. All of it gone in seconds, 12 years reduced to digital emptiness. It felt like the right kind of ending. This morning, I woke up and realized something had shifted. The crushing weight on my chest was a little lighter. The constant ache in my heart was a little duller. I'm not healed, not even close, but I'm healing. Day by day, moment by moment, I'm putting myself back together. I got a call from my lawyer this afternoon. The divorce will be final in 6 weeks. David has agreed to all the terms. We're splitting everything 50-50, selling the house, dividing our assets. It's all very clean and legal and unemotional on paper. Just numbers and signatures and the dissolution of a marriage. In 6 weeks, I'll legally be single again. The thought is both terrifying and liberating. I'll be alone for the first time since I was 26 years old. No husband, no partner, no one to call when I have good news or bad news, or just want to hear another voice. Just me. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe I need this time alone to remember who I am outside of being someone's wife. Maybe I need to learn to be whole on my own before I can be part of a couple again. I think about that night 3 weeks ago, standing outside Vanessa's window with a wine glass in my hand, watching my marriage implode. I think about the sound of the glass shattering on her driveway. At the time, it felt like my entire world was shattering with it. But now, I'm starting to see it differently. Yes, something broke that night. But what broke was an illusion, a false sense of security, a marriage that was already dead, but I hadn't known it yet. The life I thought I had was never real. And painful as this is, living in truth is better than living in a beautiful lie. I don't know what my future holds. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again, if I'll ever stop looking for signs of betrayal in every relationship, if I'll ever feel completely safe giving my heart to someone. The old Emma, the one who trusted easily and loved freely, is gone. I'm someone new now, forged in the fire of betrayal and heartbreak. But here's what I do know. I survived. When I thought my world was ending, when I couldn't imagine getting through the next hour, let alone the next day, I survived. I got out of bed. I put one foot in front of the other. I did the hard things. I chose myself. And if I could do that, if I could survive the worst thing I thought could happen to me, then maybe I'm stronger than I ever knew. Maybe I can build a new life, one that's based on self-love and self-respect rather than on someone else's commitment to me. Maybe I can be happy on my own terms. Yesterday, I drove past our old house. There was a for sale sign in the front yard. David has already moved out, gone to stay with his brother across town. The blue shutters I'd loved so much looked faded now, or maybe I was just seeing them with different eyes. I didn't feel sad seeing the house standing empty. I felt nothing, and that was its own kind of progress. That building, those rooms, that life, it all belonged to someone else now. Someone who believed in happily ever after, and business dinners and faithful husbands. I'm not that person anymore. I'm someone who knows that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you deepest. I'm someone who knows that love isn't always enough, that promises can be broken, that you can share a bed with someone for 12 years and never really know them at all. But I'm also someone who knows that endings can be beginnings, that broken things can sometimes be rebuilt into something different, something stronger, that surviving the worst doesn't make you broken, it makes you resilient. Tonight, I'm sitting in Rachel's guest room, which has become my temporary home. drinking tea instead of wine. The tea is chamomile, meant to be calming, but I'm learning that no beverage can truly calm the storm inside me. Only time can do that. Time and work and therapy, and the slow, painful process of grieving what I've lost while celebrating what I've gained: my dignity, my self-respect, my freedom from lies. I still miss him sometimes. Not the real David, the one who lied and cheated and betrayed me, but the David I thought he was, the one who existed only in my imagination. I miss the comfort of routine, the security of partnership, the warmth of having someone to come home to. I miss being part of a we instead of just an I. But I don't miss the doubt, the anxiety, the nagging feeling that something was wrong even when I couldn't put my finger on what. I don't miss the loneliness of those evenings waiting for him to come home, not realizing that he was choosing not to. I don't miss being lied to, even if I didn't know that's what was happening. My phone buzzes. It's a text from my lawyer. Final papers will be ready next week. Just need your signature. Next week. In 1 week, I'll sign papers that will officially end my marriage. In 6 weeks, it will be over. Done. Finished. I should feel sad. I should feel devastated. But instead, I feel something unexpected. Relief. Relief that I don't have to pretend anymore. Relief that I don't have to wonder or doubt or question. Relief that I can start rebuilding my life on a foundation of truth instead of lies. This isn't the ending I wanted, but maybe it's the ending I needed. Maybe I needed to learn that I'm strong enough to survive heartbreak. Maybe I needed to learn that I deserve better than someone who treats commitment like an optional suggestion. Maybe I needed to learn that being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel alone. So here I am, 38 years old, soon to be divorced, starting over. It's terrifying. It's painful. Some days it feels impossible. But I'm doing it. I'm surviving. I'm healing. I'm becoming someone new, someone who knows her worth, who won't settle for less than she deserves, who won't ignore her intuition ever again. That wine glass that shattered on Vanessa's driveway that night, it was expensive crystal, part of a set we'd gotten as a wedding gift. For weeks I mourned losing it, as if it were one more thing the affair had taken from me. But I realize now that it was just a glass, just an object. And sometimes things need to break so we can see clearly what was always there, hidden behind the illusion of perfection. My marriage broke, my trust broke, my heart broke, but I didn't break. I bent, I cracked, I splintered, but I didn't break. And that's enough. For now, that's enough. Tomorrow, I'll wake up and do it again. I'll get out of bed, even though part of me wants to stay there forever. I'll go to work, I'll see my therapist, I'll have dinner with Rachel, I'll put one foot in front of the other, the same way I've been doing for 3 weeks, the same way I'll keep doing until someday it gets easier. Someday I'll think about David and feel nothing. Someday I'll drive past our old house and not feel a twinge. Someday I'll trust again, love again, maybe even marry again. Someday this will be a chapter in my story rather than the whole story. But that someday is not today. Today, I'm still healing. Today, I'm still hurt. Today, I'm still learning to be just Emma, not Emma and David, not someone's wife, not half of a couple, just me. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly who I need to be. The wine glass is gone, shattered into 1,000 pieces. But I'm still here. Broken in places, yes, but whole in the ways that matter. Still standing, still fighting, still choosing myself every single day. And in the end, that choice to choose myself, to demand better, to walk away from someone who didn't value what we had, that choice is the one I'll never regret. Not even on the hard days. Not even when I miss what I thought we had. Not even when I wonder what might have been if he'd made different choices. Because I made my choice too. And my choice was me. That's the ending to this story. Not the ending I wanted when I walked down the aisle 12 years ago, but the ending I deserved. The ending where I choose my dignity over my desperation, my truth over his lies, my future over his past. I dropped the wine glass that night, but I didn't drop myself. And that, I'm learning, makes all the difference.